Alright, this is the video tutorial for assignment number 2, image restoration. So basically what you have to do is find an old, damaged photo, right? What I would suggest is the more damaged, the better, because that way I can see what you did. If you take a photo and it's not really that bad, then it's not, you didn't really do much, so it really isn't that much to grade. You know what I mean? You're not going to get as much credit. It's not as important that it's old as it is that it's damaged. So maybe you got a picture of an old boyfriend or girlfriend, and they made you angry and you ripped it up or something like that. Maybe tape it back together. If you have a scanner, scan it, or take a picture of it. You gotta take the best quality, flattest kind of picture you can take, and then come into Photoshop, and then you're gonna basically try to fix it. Okay, so that's basically the goal. All right, so let's get to it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open up the Photoshop. Hopefully. Like I said, if you can scan it, it'd be better. If you can, if you can go to your grandma or grandpa's house and be like, hey, do you have any old photos? I can fix them. Or maybe you can find some old photos and a photograph of maybe your mom and dad or something, and an old prom picture, something that's damaged. This is one of those ones where you can kind of fix it and then have it printed. You can give it to them as a gift or something, which is pretty cool. They definitely would appreciate it, and you would see the practical use of it. What we're going to do can be applied to any number of things, but that's basically what you want to do. So if you can find one, do that. If you can't find a damaged photo, just look online. There's a couple of ways of going about doing this. So if you go to, let's say, Bing or Google, they both have these, and you just look at old damaged photo, and go to images. You'll see a whole slew of them. Now, you don't know if you have the rights to use them. The thing is, this is educational and you're not selling it, so just grab whatever. The only thing I would say is just make sure that it's high resolution, okay? As high resolution as possible. Over here, you'll see a filter. You click on the filter. You'll see image size. You can do large. You can actually say exactly what size you want. You probably want extra large, right? You're going to biggie size this. And then right here. So if you were worried about licensing and stuff, you can click on this, and then you can see free to use to share, Creative Commons, public domain, free to modify and share. You can choose any one of these, really. Obviously, we don't need to worry about using commercially. So really, any one of these would be totally fine. So yeah, you can go on there and just download one of these. But like I said, choose a really, this one's pretty messed up. This one's really bad, good points for that. This one looks like Steve Martin, kind of, so maybe that counts for something. But if you can find an old damaged photo, or if you can find one at home, obviously that'd be preferred, because that way, it would have meaning to you. Anyway, once you grab that photo, what you're going to do is go ahead and you just want to open it up. So I'm going to click on Open. And I'm going to go to, where are you at, the baseball bat? This guy here. And give it un momento. And boom. Okay. So first thing you're going to need to do is, if you remember, the very first thing you should always do is duplicate it. So we're going to go ahead and do that over here. So I'm just going to select it, and if I hit Control J, or if you don't like hotkeys, just right click, duplicate layer, and we'll just call this one fixed, I guess. And then I'm going to double click on this one, and we'll rename this one original, okay? And then I'm just going to go right ahead and lock that one back up again, so that way we have a backup in case. It's particularly useful for this because we're going to be doing what we call destructive editing, which means that we are literally changing the pixels on the image, so we are in a way destroying the original image. Okay, so make sure you have the fixed one selected. Second thing we always do is crop it like it's hot, right? Because you don't want to work on an area that you aren't even going to use anyway. So you're going to go to the crop tool, right? And then this is probably already set, but go to crop tool, then go width, height, resolution. Make sure it's 6:9 or 9:6. You get this little thing here to flip-flop it. I'm going to do 6:9 because mine's a landscape, not portrait. And then what you want to do is kind of pull it in, I'm going to pull it, oops, pull it in, and then I'm going to show you a neat little trick. So you might have noticed that it's slightly canted or Dutched, which means it's tilted. Obviously, that's not what I want, right? So there's a neat little tool with the crop tool that actually straightens the image for you as well. Now, if it's like, if you are like turned to the side, then you're going to want to go to image rotation, and then just do 90 degrees clockwise or clockwise, depending on what your situation is. Mine's already in the right general direction. But there is a tool to make it like that. If you go up here, you'll see this little straighten. See this little, I guess it looks like a level. You can click on that, and then what you're going to do is you draw a line across something that's straight. So generally speaking, mine, I have this line up here because it's like a Polaroid. But normally what you want to do is just draw a line across the horizontal, the horizontal plane. So like, if you can see, like if it's an outside scene, then I would use the horizon line. If you're inside, then like use the floor or a table or something like that. And you want to draw a line across it, okay? So I'm looking at this bridge. That's not really going to work because if you look, the bridge is slightly like this, and so is this one. So I'm going to kind of, and I can't really see I could just bake it, but rather than doing that, I'm just going to be a cheater, and I'm just going to use the line up here. So I'm just going to click here. You click and hold, and I'm dragging, draws this line out, and go here. And basically I'm saying this is the straight, and they're going to see us go doop, like that, okay? And that'll work for all sorts of things. Like if I try it again, and go clicking like that, you're going to see, right? Which isn't really good, but let's get that more correct. There we go. Okay, so now that's straight, and I'm just going to farther adjust this. So now normally I wouldn't tell you to do it this way, but I'm just doing it this way because I wanted to show you something. But I'm going to go ahead and just get this as wide to the outside as possible. And we're going to call that, pull this up a little bit. If you click on the inside, you can move the image underneath. Pull this up a little bit more. We'll say like that. Now normally I would say cut into here, right? Because our subject is obviously this family, right? We're going to call them my family. Obviously the subject here is my family. So you want to cut in as close as possible, typically, unless there's a reason for it. But they're really the thing I'm concerned about, right? So anyway, once you're done, you can hit enter, or you can hit this checkbox. If you hit enter, you'll probably have to hit it twice. Okay, good. So now we've got this, and it's 9 by 6 by 300. I don't remember what it says. Make sure you type in the 300 too. Okay, good. That looks muy bueno. So now what I'm going to do is before I actually do the, normally I would say work product specific, but in here we actually have lots of little errors and things like that I kind of want to fix. So if you look at it, you can see there's definitely some glaring issues, like this really big tear right down here, which is just not great. So I'm just going to go ahead and fix that. Let's see, Control Plus, so I get as close as I can. And then we're going to be using a lot of what we call content-aware tools, okay? And basically it just means that when you execute these tools, they look at the content around them. They're aware of like the pixels and stuff that are around them, and they will try to use that in order to calculate whatever it is that you're doing. So typically what that normally means is that you're removing something, and when you remove something, instead of it just being like this, where I grab it, let me turn this guy off, and I hit delete, and it's just clear, what it'll do instead is we got new settings here. What it'll do instead is this. Let's close out of this. Apply and cancel, I guess. Okay. And that's Control D. It will look at what's around it and replace it with that. You'll see it a little bit more. So you can see it kind of tried to do a little bit here. It changed a little bit, but it also kept some of that in there because it was looking at what was around it, and what was around it was the tear. Okay, so that's what content aware does. Anyway, so we'll mostly be using those tools and such. So over here, you're going to see, if you click and hold, you'll see Spot Healing Brush, Patch Tool, Content Aware Move Tool, and Red Eye Tool. We won't be using Red Eye, but we'll be using the other one. So the Spot Healing Brush. The way this works basically is you click an area and it will remove what you click on, but then replace it with what's around it. Okay, so the most obvious one is this line right here. But before we even do that, let's see. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit closer. Control plus, Control plus. See these little dots here? See this dot? Like, watch. All I'm going to do is I use my bracket keys. It's the two little things next to the right of the P key. Okay, and you want to make it like just big enough that it covers it. And I'm just going to click, and you can say, boom, it's gone. Click, click, and you can click and drag like this. Click, 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 click. It helps if you say click when you do it. You see this little weird little hair thing? Probably there was a hair on it when they made the photograph. When they exposed it. I did a really bad job. See, it's gone. A little something extra there. Okay. Okay. So I'm just gonna look for little nuts here. I'm having a really hard time with my mouse. Okay. Something there. Okay. So you can see that's what it does. Now we need to do. I'm gonna control minus and minus. I need to remove this here. So you can see my brush is a little bit too small, so make it a little bit bigger. Now this works really well for very simple areas where it's a very repeating pattern and there's nothing like weird going on with it. So like this is all blue, but obviously it's better than if I tried to instead paint this blue, right? Like I could try to sample the blue and then watch if I paint this blue, which apparently I grabbed a bad one. Let me try that again. Something more in the blue range. It's all looking very green. Okay. But if I try to brush it, you can see the line, right? It doesn't look very good because there is noise and variation in there. So anyway, we're going to use this. You just click and drag. And I'm only going to go to about here. And then boom, it's gone. Okay. I'm going to control plus plus. And then I'm going to show you another trick. Instead of clicking and dragging, you can click once. And then if I hold shift and click, it'll draw a straight line. That works for all tools. Now, you may see right here, did a pretty good job. And it did also an amazing job up here too. Okay. Well, sometimes it doesn't do a good job. So a lot of times what I will do is I'll just kind of like dab, 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 dab. But you can see, boom, there you go. And it completely replaced it. Now, it's not without imperfection. You can actually see down here. Because what it's doing is it's using the content around it. So right here, see how there's these two that are exactly the same? So that's how you know that it was altered. And so if you were somebody who was looking at a photo, like, is this like changed in some way? They would be able to tell. Depending on how good of a job the other person did, but they would probably know. Because you'd be able to see the redundancy. Okay. So that's the spot healing brush, and I can use that for any kind of little nucks. For simple fixes, that works pretty well. Now, you might have large areas that you just want to remove. There's a couple ways of going about doing that. I already alluded to one earlier. One of them, and I don't honestly highly suggest this, but you could try it. I mean, I just want to show you because it exists, is this one. So what you can do is use your marquee tools here, your select tools. I'm not going to use the marquee one. I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the lasso tool. Yours is probably on lasso. And I'm going to go down to Polygonal Lasso. Okay, so I'm going to go to this guy. And you see how there's this shadow here, right? It's like Mordor's creeping in on me. I want to remove that and just have it be the wall so it looks a little bit nicer. So, to do that, I'm going to click here, and make sure you get the entirety of it. Click here, here. I'm just going to click outside this area and then come up here and double click. That way I make sure I get everything, even though there's nothing in here, just to make sure I cover the whole basis there. Okay, so I have the entirety of it selected. Now what I can do is you go up to Edit, Content Aware Fill, and apparently they've got these new options here. So let's see, output to new layer. Oh, I'm just going to use current layer. That's nice that does that. Let's see, color adaptation, default, rotation, don't need any of that, auto, custom, okay. And then we will hit apply, and then we will hit okay. And then I'm just going to go ahead and I need to clear my selection out. I hit Control D for clear, for deselect, or you go up to select, deselect. And you can see it took it out. Now, it wasn't perfect. If you look, see how it used what was above it to sample as well. And again, like here, this area looks okay, but you know, you kind of lost the line here, you kind of lost the line here, okay? What you're going to find is the more automated a tool is, like the quicker and easier it is to use, but because you have less control over it, the results can sometimes be unpredictable. Yours might turn out really good. Mine actually usually turns out a little bit better than this. It's sort of half random because I mean it's the minute of what you're selecting. But the more automated, you know, generally speaking, the less good it's going to look. So you're going to see we'll have. I'm kind of going from like the easiest to the more complicated, as you may have already noticed. Okay, so there's that stuff. So you can remove whole big things if you need to that way. All right. Now, let's say I'm looking at my family here. Let me get this out of the way. And I don't like this kid. I just don't like him. He's got a purse, right? Everybody else has matching outfits. See how these are horizontal stripes? What's this kid with the vertical stripes? Just, you know what I mean? We're going to get rid of him. Let's just say that at vacation we pushed him over that bridge and we don't want anyone to know he was ever there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this kid out of here. So what I'm going to do is we can use the patch tool. Now, you go down to not this one where you are, the heal tool, and you'll see patch tool. That's the one we want. So you click and hold, and you'll see patch tool. Okay? Now you'll notice also that these all have, see how it says L? So that's L. V is the select tool. M is marquee. We got L, wand, W for this, C for crop, so on and so forth, right? I for eyedropper. But what's cool too is it's J for heal tools, I guess. I don't know why it's J, but if you hold Shift and do J and click, like J and then, or hold Shift and just keep pushing J, it'll actually scroll through. I don't know if that's useful or not, but anyway. So that's the heal tool, or the patch tool. The way this works is that you can draw over an area and then either remove it with something new, or you can take that and put that on something. Okay, so you'll see there's source and destination. These are our two options. And I forget which one's which, so I'm going to test it here. So you see I have two lovely daughters and then these two sons that I just don't like. So let's say I wanted to do this. So right now I am on source, and I did a bad thing. Okay. So if I'm going to move this kid's head, I can click and drag it, and as long as I'm on source, what it'll do is that I can put this on something, and it will replace what's in there with what I have selected. Now, if we do destination, click on this here. So let's say I just want my daughter. Okay, I want two daughters. I can click, and then I'm just going to snap it a little, like that. And voila. It's a little light, though. Oops. I don't know if that was diffusion, transparent, dark, patch, content aware. Let's see if this fixes it. Oops. That was not what I wanted to do. Normal. I don't know. It's a little light, but we'll leave it. Okay. Oops. Don't use pattern. Anyway, you can see how it works. Anyway, so you basically make a selection and then you can replace it with something. That's what we're gonna do with this kid here. I'm gonna make sure I'm on source, and then instead of using these select tools, because it's basically just lasso, so I don't have a ton of control over it. I'm gonna use instead. I like the Polygonal Lasso. Now you can use any of your selection tools. So later on we'll learn how to select things a little bit better. So if you have to do this later on, however you want to go about doing it. But I'm just going to use this magnetic lasso. This thing's a little bit easier. And I'm going to click. Oh, sorry. I didn't want magnetic. I wanted regular lasso. Normally, magnetic lasso is my favorite. I'm going to do polygonal, sorry. But his border is kind of fuzzy, so it's going to be hard to work with. So, polygonal lasso. And I'm going to click, 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 click. make sure that you don't cut into them. You obviously want to try and cut as close as possible. So I'm just clicking each time because, you know, you want to leave as much of the original image as you can. Now, you want to include the shadow, too, because if you leave the shadow, people will know he was there. And remember, we're trying to get rid of Jimmy here. What the heck? Ah. Sorry, hang on a second. I'm using a screen. Hang on. I gotta move my picture here. It's like getting in the way. Alright, I'm just gonna move this image over here so I can. Alright. Okay. Okay, cool. Keep moving. Alright. I like that it's snapping. Alright. Nope. Okay. Come on. There we go. Alright, so I'm just gonna go to my lasso tool. Look, I know my hotkeys. I'm just gonna redo this. Okay, so click, click, click. Sorry, my little head guy over there that's capturing me, it like gets in the way of clicking and then it stops working and I'll let other business. So I'm just gonna pull this over here. You know, I'd spend a little more time, do a little bit better of a job. You can see mine doesn't look that great. But make sure you also include the shadow because if you don't, if you cut through it at all too, it will leave a little mark and then it won't look so good. So include the person and all the things that are part of them. And then double click. Boom, there we go. Okay, so now I got them selected there. Go ahead and snap this back. And now I'm going to go back to my patch tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to go as far over as I can. Make sure I don't cut into him. And then I'm just going to pull this down a little. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to match up that walk the bridge here. Go over a little bit more. Obviously, I don't want to overlap him either because then it has nothing to sample. We'll call that good and let go. And then I'll hit Control D or select deselect. And boom. Jimmy's gone. Woo! It's like magic, right? It's pretty cool. Okay, so we got rid of that kid. I didn't like him anyway. He's good and gone. Sayonara, sucker. Okay. So we fixed that. Now, let's see. So we did the heal page. Okay, so let's do the content and where move tool. So I don't really like this tool to be 100% honest, but I'm just going to show you it just so you know. So let's say, you know, I want this kid here, but I don't want him like too close to everybody else. So I'm just going to take him and move him over. Same rules apply. You can just use your select tools. I'm just going to manually use what's already here because I don't feel like switching it over. And we'll see how well I do. Apparently not well. So this tool is really useful and for all sorts of things, not so much even for this. If you want to nudge something. So let's say you're taking a photograph and you got a house and a tree, and the tree's like, it's almost a perfect composition, but the tree's like a little bit too close. You could select the tree and then go, I want you like there. And then enter. It'll analyze. And then I'll just hit Control D, and it will nudge it over. But if you look, you can see it doesn't work that well. Like, I'd rather like use like the patch tool and then like heal it manually or something. I don't think it works that great. But anyway, that's what it's for basically, is you can take something and just kind of nudge your elements around a little bit in order to kind of basically enhance the composition, which is, I guess, what we're doing here. All right. So I moved him over. So if you need to adjust or move your things around, go ahead and do that. Huzzah. All right. So the next one is the healing brush tool. So this one's probably my favorite one because basically it has the most control. It takes the most to do, but you have the most control over it. So the patch tool, we have a little bit of control because we tell it what we want to sample when we're moving it. And even the content aware move, when you move it, obviously you know what it's sampling. But this one, what you do is you sample an area and draw in another. So a good example of this is to do this. So is over here, let's say, over here. So this head thing's kind of annoying. I can't really move it. I'm supposed to be able to. Anyway, So again, remember I was saying before when you see redundancies, that's how you kind of know that it's fake. So you see how we have these two little dots here? Very redundant, right? So let's say I want to replace this, but with, something that's not this one. Like I want it to be something else. So what I could do is come over here and be like, okay, well, there's a line right there. So I need a line here, and there's a line here. So I'm going to do, I'm going to hold Alt, and you'll see a little target symbol comes up on it. I wonder if I make this bigger, if this would be easier to see. Not that one, sorry. When I hold Alt, no, it's the same size regardless. Okay, I'm going to make my brush back to smaller. Okay, when I hold Alt, this little target symbol will happen, right? So I'm going to click on that. And then it's a lot like the stamp tool, the clone stamp tool, but it's a little bit different. So you can see, basically I'm going to start brushing this wherever I put this. So I guess I sampled there. So I'm going to go here and click and kind of drag down. And then let's sample any kind of this top part here. So I'm going to sample here. I'm going to hold Alt, click here. I'm going to kind of line this up, click, and draw down like so. So it's kind of like you're stamping, but like copying brush. But what it does is actually looks around it and makes sure that it looks good, that it's following the same general kind of thing. That it's using the heel brush basically. So I'm going to sample here and use that line to kind of finish into there. And then I need this area looks kind of junky, so I'm going to sample here and just kind of, oops. I'm going to hold Alt, sample there, like that. And it's a little bit rocky here, so I'm just going to sample, let's say here, and just brush this across. Sample here, just kind of brush that across. You can see again some redundancy, so I'm just going to sample this rock here, and kind of brush that in there. Sample in here, I got a little bit of a line there. Over here, just like that. We're just trying to sample here to get a little bit better. No, did I brush there? I need to sample. Alt. There we go. A little bit of a delay. And I'm just going to brush across. And basically allows me, it's kind of junky, so I'm going to click here. Basically allows me to kind of copy an area, but also it'll blend with the area that I'm brushing. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll do the one and then use that as a fix, right? So you can heal with the one, and then if you have a particular thing that you're trying to do, and you're like, oh, I got to make this match with the other thing, the best thing to do is to use that heel brush and kind of sample from one to the other, okay? But you have a lot more control over here. Okay, now, there's another issue where we took old Jimmy here out. So if you look, you can see, let me hit the V tool. So if you look, you can kind of see a silhouette here. Now, when you first look at it from far away and you aren't looking at it, you're like, oh, it looks fine. But if you actually look, you could tell, it's pretty, it took what was around it, but it ain't right. So what we need to do is we basically need to fix that. Now, we could try to use that heel brush, but you're going to notice that it's not going to work as well. Because of the blending, it gets kind of smudgy. So what I like to use instead is, I guess I can put this back up. What I like to use instead is just the regular old clone stamp. And what I'll do is basically the same process. Zoom in here. I'm going to hold Alt, and I like to grab a corner. So I'm right in this corner of this thing here. It's a little smaller. So I'm going to hold Alt and click here, and then I'm going to match it up here and go, Hold Alt. Oops. Match it up. Okay. And then over here, we'll just kind of click on that. I'm just going to try and extend it. So here's like a peak. Roughly go, let's say, here. Oops, that's not quite right. A little bit off. Okay. I'm going to start at the top. Do this here. I should start at the top. It's all okay. Maybe even try to use that patch tool a little bit over here. Patch tool. Let's do destination. So I'm going to take, let's say, these. Oops. I'll take, let's say, this here. And I'll take it, and then I'll put it, let's say, here. See, that kind of matched that. And then let's take this chunk here. And let's see if we can get it to go like right about, let's say, here. Okay. And then we'll use, let's just use the spot healing brush because I bet I can kind of clean it up just using this here. I like to do little dabs. Bit of bad brushing there. Okay. And I would basically do that all the way across, but you can see there's quite a bit to do. So maybe like, let's see, we start here. But basically, I'll try to clean up all of that by just using the various tools, the clone stamp tool, the patch tool. I don't want to spend all day on it, but I would kind of basically clear that up and make that by using what's already there and repeating it. So I've seen students who have had like a photo and the one eye is like just not good. So what they'll do is they'll, like it's just ripped off or something. They'll take the other eye, and if it's a straight one, they can flip it and just slightly distort it so that it's the same. Or they'll take a photo from another eye. That's usually what professionals would do, is they would take two photos and they would use them together to create the final one so that they would have a finalized photo. Okay. So we're gonna call that good. So that's how you fix generally most of the scratches and stuff. You're gonna have to use a variety of the tools. So the next thing we would want to do is just the general adjustments. Okay. So one other thing I would like to do is this, and I'm going to use his shirt as an example. See these little dots? Those little dots, and there's like these little white dots and stuff. I can't go through and like like, I mean, I could, but that would just take forever. See, there's a bunch of little clumpity-dumpities here. There's actually some tools we can use in order to fix that. So we're going to go to filter, and then we're going to go to noise, and you'll see there's a couple of them. There's despeckle, dust and scratches, reduce noise, all sorts of them. I don't find that I have great luck with any of these. Let's do despeckle. You do it once. See, it didn't really, I think it almost like just blurs it. I don't know. I don't find it being like super handy. The one I do like actually is the dust and scratches one because it gives you a little bit more control. So I'm going to lower my radius. So it's a bit less. Take the threshold down. So I'm going to try and go, there we go. You want to go, you don't want to lose your image here. Maybe I gotta take that radius down. So the radius is how much of an area it's going to affect, right? So right now it's 3 pixels. And the threshold is just like how much is it going to do in that realm. So if you go really high, it's not going to look like much now. So I'm going to, the requirements to meet it, or see, it's a little too much. Right there, I'm going to say. So I went 3 and 20 for mine. Play with those numbers and see what you end up with. But you can see I got rid of the little blue flakes, and I got rid of a lot of the little things and stuff like that too. And one concern is, yeah, okay, you just gotta be careful because it'll actually blur it out a little bit. Hit okay, boom. So now you can see I got rid of those little dots and such, which works pretty good. Now you might also need to filter, and depending on the type of photo. So you can look at this one. Old photos typically are a little bit blurry. So filter, you'll see the sharpen, and then I just like to use that smart sharpen. And let's see. Go with that. Okay. It's a little painterly, but it'll be fine. Okay. So that's good. So we did those two things. Now the other thing that's really obvious, and you see them actually use this in film, right? So if they're doing a scene and it's like an old scene, right? Like it's like way in history, they'll make it black and white, because when we look at old things, right, they're black and white, like Western times and what have you. So they'll often make them black and white. If they're doing something that's like it's a past scene, but it's like from a childhood, right? Or if it's the 70s or something like that, they'll do what it looks like here. They'll add like yellow and kind of like fade it in a weird way, because that's what we're used to seeing. So whenever you're trying to mimic a style, be it even if you're doing a character design or something like that, you want to look at the art of the time and then infuse that into it, because it will subliminally, if nothing else, make them think that it's from that time, which will kind of further enhance it. So anyway, what we're going to do here is I'm just, it's got that yellowish look. So I just want to fix it. So instead of doing what we did last time, which was these image adjustments, we are going to use adjustment layers, okay? Now the difference between these two is basically this. It will allow us to apply similar things that's up here, but non-destructively. So what that means is when I go to use this image adjustment, and I do, like, let's say, I don't know, hue saturation, and I do whatever, right? If you look, you can see here, that's the actual pixels. I can't, if I wanted, let's say I did that, and then I wanted to, I don't know, filter and distort, and I did pinch or something. I was like, okay. And then I got done, and they're like, oh, you know what? We don't like the green. I do like the pinch. In order for me to get rid of the green, I'd have to undo the pinch, and then I'd have to undo both, and then do just the pinch, because I'd have to back all the way up. What these allow us to do is that these lay over top. So what you want to do is you select this, and we'll just do right off the bat. This has got that yellow tint. So there's a photo filter one. Which one are you? Right here. Photo filter. You're gonna click on that. You're gonna see what it's gonna do is it's gonna make another layer. Basically, what it does is it creates a mask. We'll discuss that later. Creates a mask. In this case, the whole thing is being masked. That's why it's showing white. And then it applies this filter onto it. Okay, and this effect, this adjustment in our case. And then they have different ones. So I'm going to try these different cooling filters to basically counteract. And I'm just going to see which one I like the most. I'm thinking I like the second one. I'm going to go with this one, this LBB one. And then I can adjust the density here. Now, what's cool about this is, click back on adjustments. I can turn this on or off. I can grab it and I can just get rid of it altogether if I don't want it. If later on, like, oh, you know what, I went too far with it, I can select it, go to my properties, and I can still adjust it here. It's laying over on top of it, so it's non-destructive. It's not changing the pixels. It's merely putting like a mask over top of it, okay? So then I'm going to make sure you click back on this, because if I have this and I, again, do another adjustment layer, it's going to do it to this layer. I want to make sure it's on the same layer that I just had. So select this, then you're going to go up here, and then you'll see these other ones. So let's try levels. And let's see. Let me pull this up so I can see a little bit better. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to say black is this. And I'm going to click on this one and say that white is this. And then mid color is, let's say their skin. Like that. That looks terrible. Okay. So generally speaking, what we want to do is pull this to this direction. See where the thing starts? So this is the brightness. As I go this way, it's going to pull it more and more bright. You see, all in here is basically dead space. You can see it doesn't do that much. So I'm going to pull it to basically where the white starts. And then the black, you want to do the same thing. So I'm going to pull this one this way a little bit. Now, if I keep going, it's going to be completely black. I'm going to pull till like roughly where the grass starts, which is right about there. And then I'm going to grab this guy. These will just sample to find these, but I think it's better to do it this way. And I'm just going to go left and right to see where I want to put it. So that's way too dark. Let's go about there. Okay. And if I don't like it, I can turn it off, keep it on, right? So I've brightened it up a little bit. All right, so let's select this again, and let's go to adjustments, and let's do curves. All right. Now, before when we did the curves, let's go ahead and brighten this one. I don't really like that. It's too bright. What we did before is that we just did it to the entirety of the image. You can actually choose to do one at a time. So what I'm going to do is go to, let's say, green. I'm just going to click and pull green up a little bit. So I feel like we lost a little bit of it from the blue filter. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose red. And I'm going to click and, let's see, we want to go up or down. Let's go. I think I want to go a little bit more up. Like so. And let's look at blue. And I am going to maybe go down a little bit. Okay. All right. So now I have these filters, and that's pretty cool. Now, some other things that you can do. Don't do it in this one. I just want to show you something. Now, these adjustments are basically the same thing that's up here in these adjustments, right? But you might run into an issue where you want to use like these filters here, right? So like maybe I want to sharpen it again, but like when I did it the first time, it executed onto the pixels. One of the things you can do is much like these, you can do these filters up here, okay? But you can make it so that they are non-destructive. The way to do that is that once you have the image done, like the tools that you would use here, once that's complete, you want to right-click over top of it, and you'll see Convert to Smart Object. And what Smart Object is going to do is this. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to duplicate this. Okay. I'm sorry. Control J. Hey, Control D. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm just going to Control T for transform. Don't do this. The way it works is basically like this. Actually, let me duplicate it again. And I'm going to take this one, and we are going to rasterize it, which is what it normally is. Okay. That's the regular. Watch what happens when I transform this, okay? So I'm going to make it small, let's say. I'm sure you've done this before. And let's rotate it for good measure, just to really mess it up, okay? And then I'll hit Enter. And I'm like, oh, you know what? They need it being back big again. I'll Control T again, rotate it back. I'm going to do one at a time so it's a little bit easier. And make it big. And hit Enter. And what do you notice? It looks terrible. The reason why is that when I shrunk it down, it resampled the image, and then the image became that size. So once I retry to make it big again, the image is going to be, it's just like you're taking a tiny image making it big. It's just going to pixelize like it normally would if you had a small picture, okay? That's what normally happens. With a smart object, what it does is it's always sourcing the original image. So if this one, if I make it small, so let's say it was supposed to go, and it's supposed to be a small thing, and it's supposed to be in the corner, right? And I'll hit Enter. Okay? I'm like, oh no, they need it big again. I could go like this, rotate it back as best I can, and then scale it back to big. Well, imagine I did it correct. But you can see, not pixelated. That's because it's a smart object. So basically, it stores the original image, and it's always there. So that way, you never lose anything. There is a caveat with this, though. So this is also, again, non-destructive because it's not going to resample the picture. You will notice that if I try to, like, let's say paint, see how it's telling me no smoking? I can't do anything destructive on it as well, which means I can't use the heal brush. I can't use any of those things that were changing the pixels. So that's why you want to make sure your picture is the way that you want it before you make it a smart object. But again, let's say now I wanted to do one of these filters up here when it's a smart object. Most of them will be an option. Some might not be. They might turn them off. Like right there, lens blur was turned off. You see? But let's say for some reason, let's just do another noise. Let's try reduce noise. Okay. And Control plus. Okay. So I can be like, okay, let's try reduce noise, and I'll hit OK, right? And then I'll look at it, and you'll see that they go underneath instead. Let's go off and on, and I don't really see that much of a difference. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Let's try a different one because you can't really see it. So filter, let's just do one that's really obvious. We'll just do crystallize, and I'll hit OK, right? Okay, and then let's say we do another filter, and I will do emboss, and I'll hit OK. And they'll be like, oh, great, but I wanted emboss and then crystallize. Well, I can go ahead and drag one on top of the other. Come on. There we go. And now it's going to do the embossing, and then it's going to do the crystallizing. So it means it's going to do this part first, then the crystallize on top. Or I'd be like, oh, I wanted it crystallized but not embossed. I can just hit that little eyeball, which turns it on and off, and that will turn it off. Or if I need to adjust it, I can click on, double click, stop the top of the filter, not previous. Okay, I can adjust it here. Okay, at least the opacity of it. Or I can just turn them off altogether. Okay, so that's what makes it a smart object. That basically all the things, kind of like the adjustment layers, will be layered on. There become smart filters, and then it won't damage your photo. I don't want any of them, so I'm going to click and drag them into the trash. But that's another thing you can do as well when you convert it to a smart object. So smart objects are nice for doing general big things, but you can't make those micro adjustments. So like even when I'm looking at this, I look at my despeckle and I went too far. I can't fix that now. I'd have to go back because I did it as just a regular filter instead of doing it as a making this into a smart object and doing it as a smart filter. Okay. Okay, so you make all those adjustments. It still looks a little bit yellow. I'm not that good at photography. All right. Yeah, and then basically it's done. So if we look at it, let's turn on the original here, if I can. There we go. And let's. So you can see the. Oh, hang on a second. Let's. Man, this is super annoying. Move you over, please. There we go. Okay, let's turn that back on. So I want these to all be, so you can see when I turn this off, see how it still is doing those adjustments to the one underneath? It's because these will apply to everything underneath it. They're not tied to this layer. It's the whole image, okay? So I'd have to click and drag, turn all of them off. And then you can see the original, click and drag, refreshed. Original, refresh, right? So we got rid of all the specs, got rid of that loser kid. All right, looks great. Okay, so what I want you to do for your assignment is this. You're gonna save. You're gonna save this a couple of times. So what I want you to do is save the image here like this. So Control Shift S, and just call it. File save as. Just go ahead and save it as a Photoshop. Where's the okay, Photoshop, and just do your last name, _restoration. Okay, and you can just submit that picture. So just on Blackboard, submit just this PSD. The reason why is that because you did the original layer here, I can see what the original picture is, so I can see what you did. You don't have to submit two. I think I said to submit two. You don't have to do that. Just submit the one as long as you have the original one in the layer like you're supposed to. The other thing I want you to do is save this again as a JPEG. So whatever, cone restoration, save. And then turn off all that, show the original image, save this one also, so Control-Shift-S or Command-Shift-S or File Save As, also as a JPEG. JPEG stereo, not JPEG stereo. We'll do cone hold. Okay. And then in Blackboard, I don't have it up yet, but in Blackboard, log in, go to your courses, go to this course, Digital Imaging 1, go to, you can either go to the week, I don't have it posted up here yet because I made this video before I did that, go to discussions, and then just, you will, just like you did in the first one, you're just going to go ahead and, let's just say I create a new thread. You're just going to go ahead, and when you make your new thread, just put like your last name, restoration. You're just going to click on this to insert an image, find the image, browse my computer. Make sure it's the JPEG version, the JPEG, not the PSD, because it won't show up. Give it a second because it's this slow. Yeah, don't care. And then also post the other one. So hit that again. Browse my computer. Old, open. Give it a second because it's slow. Insert, whatever. And then just write a little bit about it, basically kind of like what you do with the project cover sheet. Okay, like, oh, this is an old photo of my grandma's wedding. You know, I decided I was going to redo it for her because she gives me cookies. You know, this is what I did, that kind of thing. Okay? And then you'll just submit, and then reply to 2 other people's. Okay? Good. All right. So that's all you got to do. We are almost an hour, I think. So good luck. If you run into any issues, let me know. This should hopefully give you a range of tools. You don't have to do exactly what I did here. Just make yours look better by healing it and fixing it, making the general adjustments, things like that. Okay? Otherwise, good luck.